Good morning, everyone. I'm Mohammed Ilhan, second year MSC Microbiology student. So, I'm here to discuss with you regarding a topic named microbial loop. So, coming to the topic, microbial loop. So, microbial loop is a simple topic, and actually, what does it mean is that it's a trophic pathway in the aquatic system where the dissolved organic carbon is returned to the higher trophic level after it is incorporated into bacterial biomass and then coupled into the classical food chain through phytoplankton, zooplanktons, and the related planktons. So that's the simple definition of microbial loop. So now we've discussed about the aquatic systems. When coming to the soil systems, the microbial loop refers to the soil carbon. And the term microbial loop was coined by Farooq Azam, Tom Finchel in 1983 to include the role play of these bacteria in the carbon cycling and nutrient cycling in the marine environment. So you all can clearly see a diagram over here. In that there's a term mentioned as DOC. So what actually DOC is? DOC is nothing but dissolved organic carbon. So DOC are released into the water body by the big fishes mentioned over here, small fishes, phytoplankton, zooplanktons, etc. So these DOC in the marine system or the aquatic body would be taken up or consumed by the mycophytoplankton, smaller bacteria, viruses, etc. So these pycophytoplanktons, bacteria, viruses, etc. serve as a food for the higher organisms, which is phytoplanktons, zooplanktons, etc. And these organisms will be further consumed by the higher trophic level organisms. So this DOC, which means the carbon, will be circulated within this aquatic system and will not be lost into the surrounding. That's the main idea of what microbial loop does. Okay, so now let's deal with the factors that are going to influence the microbial loop. So as we all know that microbial loop is a diverse ecosystem where different organisms coexist and it can be influenced by numerous factors which can be both biotic as well as abiotic. So coming to the abiotic factors, the first one we have over here is temperature. So we know that there are organisms which can live in high temperature area, which can live in low temperature area. So coming to the microbial loop, the microbial activity will be way more higher if the temperature condition is a bit warmer. So high temperature can favor the microbial loop. Then coming to the salinity, it varies. There will be what to say. Different organisms thrive under more saline area. Some might not survive under high saline area, so it can vary accordingly. Then coming to the nutrient availability, oxygen, phosphorus, sulfur, carbon, nitrogen, all these things are very much important for the survival of bacteria and other organisms. So the availability of these nutrients can be a crucial factor that determines how the composition of the microbial loop can be. Then next one is pH. The pH can vary, and as a result of the varying pH, the consistency of the microbial loop can also vary. The next one is light. As we all know that certain organisms which are autotrophs utilize light or the sunlight for the photosynthetic purposes, and thereby it can have a direct impact on the microbial loop too. The next one is the hydrodynamics. When speaking about hydrodynamics, the water currents and the flow of water, it can have a crucial impact on the microbial loop and determine which all organisms can thrive in an area. Because if a high tide or high pressure water current comes, the organisms can get sweep off to a different area. So hydrodynamics can play an important role. So coming to the biotic factors, the first one will be microbial diversity. So the diversity of the microbes living in an area can directly impact on the energy flow and nutrient cycling. So thereby the microbial loop can also be influenced by this factor. So next one is viral infections. So there are viruses living deep beneath the ocean and the aquatic ecosystem. So their presence and their ability to lyse the bacteria can play a crucial role in determining the microbial loop. So while lysing the bacteria, it can result in the release of various nutrients, dissolved organic carbons, etc., which can further influence the microbial loop. The next one is the grazing pressure. The way or the frequency by which the protist graze over there or consumes the bacteria or in that ecosystem can also have an impact on microbial loop. The next one is predation. If the higher trophic level organisms predate way more on the lower ones, it can it can have a direct influence on the microbial loop. The next one is competition. The competition for the nutrients or the food by different organisms can also have an impact on microbial loop and can determine its consistency. So these factors can interact in complex ways to influence the structure, stability, and the dynamics of microbial loop. Okay, so now let's go through microbial loop and how it can affect global carbon cycling. So actually, a microbial loop plays an important role in global carbon cycling. We know that it's actually an interaction between microorganisms, the dissolved organic carbon, the larger organisms within the aquatic system. So actually, this loop helps to recycle the organic carbon, as I said earlier, and it prevents it from being lost to the nearby surroundings, so to be sequestered in the deep beneath the ocean layers. So actually, the key processes that involve in microbial loop and carbon cycling are as the following. Okay, so the first one will be the production of DOM, that is dissolved organic matter. So the primary producers like phytoplanktons and all, they release this dissolved organic matter into the into the water bodies. It can be, as I said earlier, it can be due to the cell senescence, or it can be leakage as exudates due to the cell lysis, and so on. Okay, so the next one will be microbial uptake. So here the heterotrophic bacteria and others, they will take down this DOC, and they'll release nutrients after breaking down this DOC into similar formats. So the next one is nutrient regeneration. So these nutrients which are released by these heterotrophs can be taken up by the primary producers and they can be reused. That's what's called nutrient regeneration. So next one is grazing. So what actually grazing means is that protists and other organisms, what they'll do is that they'll graze on the bacteria and smaller organisms and incorporate their carbon into their own biomass. That's what grazing means. And coming to the next one will be there will be movement of these carbon source into the higher trophic level. So these protists and all will be consumed by organisms which are further above them in the trophic level, and thereby there will be transfer of these nutrients and all these things, and there will be a cycling of these things. Then coming to the last one in carbon cycling and the relation with microbial loop, last one will be sedimentation. So some of the organic carbon will be not fully utilized by the organisms in the aquatic environment. Rather, it would go down beneath the beds of the ocean, and it will get deposited and it will sink over there, and it will act like a reservoir for carbon for several years, several hundreds and thousands of years. It can be found over there as sediments, and it can act as reservoirs. Now we all can see a diagram over here. From there it is visible that carbon dioxide is being fixed from the atmosphere into the ocean, and it is taken up by the phytoplanktons, and phytoplanktons can be consumed by the higher trophic level organisms, and these higher trophic level organisms as well as these phytoplanktons, both of them releases DOM into the DOM means dissolved organic matter into the aquatic ecosystem, and this DOM can be further utilized by the heterotrophs for their nutritious purposes, and there can be a cycling of nutrients as well as organic carbon, and this will go back to the phytoplanktons as the phytoplanktons consume these heterotrophs, and these phytoplanktons can further be consumed by the higher organisms, and some, as we can see at the bottom of the diagram, some of them are some of them are sunken into the bed of these oceans as reservoirs. It is called sequestration of carbon, and we can see that from higher trophic level there can be a remineralization of carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. So that's what we can understand from microbial loop and its importance in carbon cycling. So coming to the microorganisms in the microbial loop, there can be a huge amount of bacteria, as we all know that. So some of them, as we mentioned earlier, are heterotrophic bacteria. So their main purpose is to decompose the organic matter and release nutrients. So heterotrophic bacteria can be either aerobic or anaerobic. Then there can be autotrophic bacteria. These autotrophic bacteria, they produce organic matter from the inorganic compounds, and they are chemoautotrophic and photoautotrophic. As the name suggests, we can understand that chemoautotrophic obtains energy from the inorganic compounds like sulfur, iron, etc. Meanwhile, photoautotrophics utilizes energy from the sunlight, like cyanobacteria. Then there are copiotrophic bacteria. Copiotrophic bacteria are the bacteria that usually thrive in conditions which are high in nutrient concentrations. Then there are oligotrophic bacteria, that is vice versa of this copiotrophic bacteria. Means oligotrophic bacteria can thrive under conditions that where the nutrient concentration is relatively lower. Then there are bacteriophages in the ecosystem. The main function is to infect and lyse the bacteria, which can result in the releasing of nutrients and DOC into the marine ecosystem. So now we'll deal with the topic name DOM, that is dissolved organic matter. So coming to dissolved organic matter, it's actually a complex mixture of organic compounds that are dissolved in the marine ecosystem, and it comprises mainly of different sources of nutrients which serves as food for these microbes that are present in the water aquatic system. So usually DOM are of different types, like biodegradable DOM, so which can be easily degraded by the microbes. Then there are refractory DOM, those are not easily degraded by the enzymes or the microbial activities. Then there are living DOM, means which are enzymes, nutrients, etc. that can serve as the food for these the microbes. So I've mentioned earlier that DOM serve as the food for these microorganisms. So let's deal with how these microorganisms take up these DOM. So initially they take up by three methods. First one is absorption, second one is hydrolysis, and third one is assimilation. What absorption means that the smaller organic matters that can easily pass through the cell membrane of this bacteria, so they absorb these matters. Then the second one is hydrolysis. So the larger complexes cannot easily be go through the the cell membrane of the bacteria like the smaller one goes through. So what they do is that they hydrolyze these matters into smaller forms, like they break down with the help of enzymes and things, and they can be taken up by the bacteria. And the last one is that now the organic matters, the nutrients, etc. are inside the bacteria, and now they need to assimilate it for their energy purpose and nutrient needs. That's the third step. Okay, so now let's deal with microbial loop and energy transfer notion. So basically, when thinking about food web, the basic idea comes is that there will be a primary producers, which is phytoplankton, then primary consumers, then the secondary consumers. By that way, the energy is being transferred from one trophic level to the another. So similar thing happens over here also, but there is a small change. The microbial loop is being involved in this thing, and due to their involvement there is a parallel as well as complementary pathway of nutrient as well as energy transfer within this aquatic ecosystem. Now we are back to DOM, that is dissolved organic matter. DOM do plays a crucial role in this transfer of energy. So actually DOM enters into the aquatic bodies as an excretory product or by the cell lysis of phytoplanktons. And basically these DOM, which is released onto the water bodies, are then further utilized by the primary consumers, which are the heterotrophic bacteria. So this heterotrophic bacteria convert this DOM into bacterial biomass. So when this heterotrophic bacteria is being consumed by the protists and all, they are being further taken to the next trophic level. So these protists that consumes on this heterotrophic bacteria are further consumed by microzooplantons. Then these microzooplantons are then consumed by mesozooplantons. Then mesozooplantons are consumed by larger zooplanktons. So this trophic level, I mean the transfer of energy from one trophic level to another trophic level is being carried on. So if the microbial loop is not existing, the much of the energy contained in DOM would be lost to higher organisms and would not be within the lower levels of the trophic levels, and drastically there would be a reduction in the efficiency of the marine ecosystem. So microbial loop hereby plays another crucial role in maintaining a balance within the ecosystem. So microbial loop also plays another important role in nutrient cycling. So we all know that their bacteria respires and there will be a release of carbon dioxide. So phytoplanktons take up this carbon dioxide for photosynthetic purposes. Then bacteria and protists like they excrete these their excretion will be releasing inorganic nutrients like nitrous, nitrogen, phosphorus, etc. into the aquatic body, so they can be reabsorbed by the phytoplanktons too for their energy purposes. So there is a strong nutrient cycling also going on due to this microbial loop. Then coming to the virus part, viruses are very important for this microbial loop. As I mentioned earlier, as I have mentioned several times regarding lysis, cell lysis. So actually, these viruses, mainly the marine bacteriophages, they are very much crucial, and they infect the bacterial cell and they lyse this bacterial cytoplasm, and it results in the releasing of DOM into the environment. This process is mainly called viral shunt, which means bacteriophages lysing the bacteria, which results in the release of DOM into the environment. So this helps in the diversion of energy away from higher trophic levels, and it returns back the energy towards the DOM pool. As I mentioned earlier, the DOM will not be going to the higher trophic levels, and it will be well circulated within the lower levels. So now we are heading to a new topic called microbial loop and carbon sequestration. So what actually carbon sequestration I have mentioned in the earlier slides. So this microbial loop actually plays an important role for carbon sequestration, and mainly for the well-maintained stability of marine ecosystem. So this process actually involves the removal of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and its storage in a long-lived reservoir form within the marine environment. So what microbial loop does to this carbon sequestration is that first it produces organic matter production. Then which means the primary producers like phytoplanktons, they convert the carbon dioxide into organic matter through photosynthesis. Okay, so the next one is that the release of DOM. So once the phytoplanktons are dead or which are gazed upon, they releases this organic matter into the water column. So it also contributes in the deposition of carbon into the beds of the ocean. The next one is sedimentation. As we all know that some of the organic carbon are incorporated into the bacterial myobas, and they eventually sink deep down the ocean and they gets deposited. So these can be used for long-term storage, like a reservoir for carbon, and it also helps it also plays a crucial role in carbon cycling as well as climate change. Okay, so now we'll come through a diagram. So in the diagram we can see clearly that carbon dioxide from the atmosphere is being taken up by phytoplanktons, and for the energy purposes like respiration, etc. And these phytoplanktons are being consumed by zooplanktons, and this phytoplankton itself releases this dissolved organic carbon to the atmosphere. So these dissolved organic carbon itself are of two types. First one is LDOC, as mentioned over here, is labile. So these are easily being utilized by the bacteria, and they can be degraded by the bacteria and can be utilized by them. So these LDOC last in the ocean for certain hours or months, and they will be utilized by the microbes and others. So as you can see that LDOC will be utilized by microbes, and RDOC as mentioned over there. The microbes also releases dissolved organic carbon into the ocean, and these are RDOCs, and they cannot be utilized by microbes, and as they are not easily degradable. So as they are not easily degradable and they will remain untouched, they will be settling down on the bottom, and they will last for more than like 1,000 years over there, and it's called carbon sequestration. And after a period of time, they can be acted upon by photo degradation by the action of UV, and this can result in the release of carbon dioxide and other inert gas, and thereby aiding to the carbon cycling of the carbon back to the atmosphere. So that's all for today, and I hope you all can gain something from my talk, and I'm glad that I could share my thoughts and my findings regarding this topic to you, and these are my references. Thank you.